Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
You're host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, authors, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. Today, we are joined again by the author of The Little Red Book, a guide to aspiring entrepreneurs, beginners, and small business owners, Jonathan Clark. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Matthew, man. Thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to continue the conversation and kind of add some more value again, man. This is very fun.
That's excellent. Well, we're excited to have you back on. And before we get too far, as always, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlynx.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLynx intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 security operations center, we monitor your computers, networks, and cloud accounts using a combination of AI and highly skilled cybersecurity technicians to detect any signs of attack or intrusion. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlynx.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. All right, Jonathan, great to have you back on. Last time we had a great time talking about your book, and it led us into so many other topics that we could talk about.
Yeah.
And I'd like to kick off, just kind of from that entrepreneur's perspective. They're building their business, and it's always a matter of getting new business. So finding those new clients, those new prospects. What advice do you have? What approach do you take? Let's dive in and get deep.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most pertinent thing that a lot of business owners struggle with. You get over that first initial hump of getting the LLC or the corp and, starting everything, getting your tax ID number, right? And you got a website and all this. And so you're like super excited. And then the next thing, right, you're like, oh man, I actually gotta have some revenue come through. And so the next thing is where do I find my clients, my customers, and how do I sustain that? And so I'll just speak from experience on some of mine. A lot of when we first started and we kind of got through that initial hump, a lot of our initial clients were kind of referral based. I think that's probably the easiest place to start. It's a lot of people around in your circle kind of know what you do, right? And they can recommend you. So if you got friends, family members, other peers in the industry, and you've made them aware of hey, I'm thinking about stepping out on my own or, doing X, Y, and Z. I think third-party referral is probably one of the strongest ways to build a new client base, the quickest way, and with the least amount of effort, right? So
yeah, for sure. I mean, and on top of that, statistically, a referral is they buy more, they're more satisfied, they stay longer, and they refer more. So, there's a lot to be said for that referral client. But now, what about outgrowing your referrals? If you want to grow to that next level, you're like, okay, I've exhausted my friends and family, my existing clients, and I really want to kind of start building that revenue generating machine, right? You want to go into just full steam ahead. How do you build that system?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Matthew. So I think just picking back, on the referral and then moving forward from that, I think the referral is a good basis, a good start to home in on mastering your craft, understanding your value proposition, really developing yourself as a business owner. And that gets you to be able to sustain your business, which is great. But like you said, you'll at some point you'll run out of that initial family and friends network, and it's okay, now I have to open myself up to a cold market. So there's a couple ways that you can get into that market. And actually, I don't know if this is a secret or not, but I think most people or most business owners aren't doing this. I like to call it supporting your competition, actually. And it's an interesting topic because that's another way that we were able to actually gain more business with little effort. And what I mean is, within your industry or within your market, right? There's already some people that are doing something maybe a little bit similar to you or right in the same area, right? And all businesses are like all business owners they want to grow, right? And as businesses grow, sometimes more than not, they can't serve everybody, right? So as they grow, right, sometimes like the people that they used to serve, they can't take them along the journey anymore. And if you kind of, befriend them and there's certain ways to do that. Like they'll, gladly hand over some of their older clients to get bigger and better clients. So that's like, for me, that was like an eye opener. It's, actually getting clients from my competitors.
Well, I think that's brilliant. I mean, it's kind of like, I think an easy way of looking at it is, let's say you were a let's say you were an auto mechanic, and
Mhm.
you got into it as a general auto mechanic. You're
Yep.
servicing all kinds, and then you're like, you know what? I really like working on, say, German cars, right? So
Yep.
then you
Yep.
you can start to specialize in German cars. You're better at it, you're faster at it, and
Yep.
you're able to, make more money doing that. Then,
Exactly.
if you partner with your, the guy down the road who's,
Mhm.
who's maybe in that, they do Japanese they tend to do more Japanese vehicles. And then the gal next door, she happens to be a Ford,
Yep.
mechanic. Fantastic. And then you're just all sending business back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yep. Yep.
So much better.
Referring business back and forth. And even, sometimes you can create some additional, incentive, where, like you said, like if you want to specialize, right, and there's a new upcoming business, and maybe they're doing what you used to do, which is the general, automotive space, right? And so you guys can work together and, refer business to each other and incentivize, each other to help each other's businesses grow. So I think there's a lot of leverage in that, versus kind of like the mentality of, it's a kind of a dog eat dog world kind of thing,
Yep.
where it's like, really, man, you can really befriend your competition, and you guys can grow a lot faster than what you think you could, separately.
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring this up, because literally last week I got invited to this conference, and it's on government contractors, and,
Oh,
trying to
cool.
keep up with the
Yeah.
new cybersecurity requirements that are coming
Yeah.
out. And interestingly enough, I meet a what would be in typically considered a competitor in
Hmm.
a booth, basically across the way from us.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they're just different enough, and what they focus on is just, they've
Hmm.
got a very specific, kind of specialty. It's like, you know
Right.
what, this
Right.
is great. Kid you not, within a 2 hours of meeting this, not even making this up, within 2 hours, before the day is through, I get a call, and,
Uh,
the guys are asking me if we kind of specialize in this. I'm like, you're never going to believe this. I know exactly who we should bring. And
yeah.
so I was able to refer that business over to them. Everybody's
Hmm.
happy. They get a client, then, and they'll do, likewise for us in the things that we specialize in, like that SOC monitoring, which is really funny because that's exactly what's happening. And
Right.
it's just so interesting that you brought that up, because that is literally an experience that we're having now.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
would never have expected it.
Yeah, and I mean, even in some industries, not all, but in some industries, like you almost have to partner, with other people, especially like in government contracting and more of the, the municipality, the public spaces, state funded projects, all these sorts of things, where you may be partnering with like a larger firm, but you guys, do somewhat similar things, and there may be some requirements to partner with smaller firms. So it's just like you just have to be open-minded, man, about just getting out networking with people. Even like you said, even if it's people within your industry, and people that aren't in your industry that may have some significance to serve the same client. And I guess that's like a segue for me to talk about like a third way. It's like so you have to kind of put yourself in the mind of your customer. So like the typical journey they take, right, to get to an end result. Well, you may be the third step of a five-step process for them. And so then you have to figure out, okay, well, who are they going to go see in step one and step two and four and five? And then you go meet those people, right? And say, hey, like we're pretty much serving the same client to get to a total end result. How can we benefit each other through marketing or referral of clients? So that's another way too. It doesn't have to be direct competition, but it could be a complementary service that your client like, goes through in their process of receiving their result. So
I love it. And in a case like that, would you recommend something like a more of a formalized joint venture, or a simply a kind of an informal kind of
yeah,
referral partnership?
I think for like smaller businesses, especially when you're getting, first getting started, kind of that informal, maybe a handshake kind of thing where you just, you become really trustworthy with those other businesses, the other smaller business that you're working with. That tends to work out really well. And what I found is it's usually like the businesses that meet each other at like networking events, webinars, conferences. You see the same people kind of over and over. And then automatically you start talking about ways to work together to grow business. But I think that helps you to kind of understand how that partnership works to begin with. And then later on down the line, when there's opportunities that call for a formal partnership, I think that's probably appropriate at that point. But I probably wouldn't start with like an official joint venture, because that's a lot of it's more paperwork, it's a little bit more headache, a little bit more involved. But once you feel seasoned enough, and you've gotten enough knowledge and mentorship all around that, then I think that's appropriate at that point.
I love this because it's almost like we're taking this kind of guerrilla marketing kind
Mm,
of approach to growing the business. So it costs you nothing to go out there and
exactly.
and talk to your competition and kind of work out a referral, there, kind of
Hmm.
like, I don't know, symbiotic relationship, a little
Exactly.
referral back and forth. Fantastic. That costs nothing. You also mentioned networking, and I think it is such an important part
Hmm.
of business success that a lot of entrepreneurs fail to miss when they're launching their business, because we
Yeah.
get so, first of all, I think we live in a culture where it's the self-made, man, the self-made woman,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
self-made person. And that's such a farce. It's such
It's
malarkey.
so, yeah, it's so glorified that it's ridiculous now.
Doesn't even exist. Like, you can't anything. You can't make a pencil by yourself. It takes like 1,000
Yeah.
people to make a pencil, let
Yeah.
alone, the business that we interact with, the computers, the every. So this idea that you can be self-made is such
Yeah.
crap. It takes, it literally takes a village, to
Yeah.
be successful, to do anything, right? And
Exactly.
so I'd like this whole networking thing. So let's dive into this. Your approach to networking. What is how do you go about it? What kind of advice do you have for people?
Yeah. So one of the first things I can say is like, in order for a business to be successful, people have to know you exist, like period. I think, as a small business owner, we're very good at like what we do in terms of like the product or the service. And we feel like automatically, it's kind of that like that build it and they'll come
Yep,
mentality. We tried that, it didn't work.
that's right. It
And
does not.
so,
You got an empty
yeah, it does
field,
not work.
a,
Yeah.
a field of sad dreams that never come true.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we had to get very advantageous around what message do we want to send out to the market? Because usually people kind of take whatever message you put out there for face value, and you pretty much you get labeled upon what you say yes to, right? So like as far as your offers, or as far as like when people have a need, and you're willing to solve it and say yes to it, and take that challenge on. People kind of categorize you in that area. But as far as like the networking, I think you just have to be really intentional about it. We started out with like LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn's like a gold mine, man. It's one of the most professional networking sites that you can find, that you can, with this Boolean searches and all this kind of other stuff, like you can get really really specific on the people that you want to reach out to. And do you believe in the 6 degrees of separation? Have you heard of that,
Oh
Matthew?
yeah, hundred
Yeah,
percent.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
just.
So
I don't even think that you have to believe in it. I believe it
yeah,
is the. I do believe it's
it
a
happens every
mathematical
day.
fact. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that's math. Yeah.
So like, yeah, like with like even with LinkedIn, man, there's two, I think, two people, and two kinds of people, and I'll put it that way. You either have what I call, like to call, divine connectors. So those are the people that they can't necessarily get you to the desired end, but they know the person who can, and they, can break down the barriers of like the gatekeeper or et cetera, right? Like that's the divine connector. And then you have the person of influence, and that's usually the person who can make the thing happen that you need to happen. And you can find both through LinkedIn. I mean, it's like I said, just have to be really, really intentional. So that's one way to do it. And then the other thing I like to always talk about too is sometimes like as small business owners, we shy away from like going where our clients are, and we get very comfortable like our peers and kind of hanging out with the same people in the industry. So like you go to these networking events, you see the same people, other businesses, competitors, etc. But like very rarely, I think, do people branch out and actually go to the where their clients are. I'll give you an example. So like we're an architecture and engineering firm, and so like of course we go to the all the different conferences where they're talking about design and all these things like that. But we do aviation projects, and so just recently we went to the triple AE, which is the American Association of Airport Executives. So like we're there like meeting CEOs of airports, and there might have been, I don't know, only a few architect firms that think like-minded like myself, but they're not, the architect firms were not the masses, the clients were the masses. And so like we're just in this huge sea of opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah, so I would encourage people to get out there and actually just go where your clients are, even if you may be the only business that are able to serve them. But that's a blessing for you, because like I said, you're just in the sea of opportunity now.
Ah, that's beautiful. So, um, so let's go back, to LinkedIn, right? You mentioned getting the divine connector, and then the what did you call it? The
Person of
person
influence. Yeah.
person of influence.
Yeah.
So I think this is great, and I have no doubt, but I think that for a lot of people, LinkedIn and social media in general is not something they've really leveraged to their success. A few people, you see them
Mhm.
leveraging it and killing it, and they
Yeah.
make a killing on YouTube and
Yeah.
whatever. So there's a few, but LinkedIn is a separate beast in and of itself. It's
Yeah.
it's an entirely different thing. And so let's take that small business owner,
Mhm.
through the process of how do you go about leveraging LinkedIn to one, find those
Mhm.
divine connectors, to get to the people of influence. How do you do that? What do you look for? How do you
Yeah.
send out that message? Is it just like, cold calling them on LinkedIn? What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, so one of the things I've realized, and I know this is probably going to sound so funny, but we can't forget that we're talking to people, you know? Even though it's about business, you can't forget that there's another human being on the other side of that computer. And so when I approach people, it's usually a friendly approach. I'm usually admiring something on their profile. I try to find some connection, the more that well, let me put it this way, the less transactional you are, the more success you'll have. And so if you go into a networking engagement with the intent of like trying to force something to come out of it, like you'll get nothing, because energy does not lie, right? Like people know when you're just in front of them to try to get something out of them. But if you're really if you even if you have to force yourself to do it, if you're really genuinely interested in a person, their background, their lifestyle, their hobbies, etc., there's something you can connect with them. And they eventually they know, right, at some point, yeah, we're here to talk about business, but try not to lead with that, I would say. And it really makes for a warm connection.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a
Sure.
second, right? So you're on LinkedIn, you get this message from somebody, they seem
Hmm.
genuinely interested in connecting with you on, I don't know, they noticed that you, I don't know, went to the same school, or
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got something in common, right? And
Yep.
they connect there. I is it one of these things where, I don't want to say your guard is up, like this is going to be a sales call, like the phone rings and you're like, ah, another
Yeah.
telemarketer. I mean,
Yeah.
right? And nobody wants to be sold anything, but everybody wants to buy, right? You want to buy
Exactly.
what you want to buy, but you don't want somebody selling it to you. So,
Absolutely.
um, so how do you go about making, kind of genuinely connecting? Because at the same time, let's face it, people's
Yeah.
time, it's valuable. It's a
It's
scarce
valuable.
resource.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
not have time to respond to all of the LinkedIn messages that I get from random
Absolutely.
people, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
And eventually, at some point I just kind of stopped answering them altogether. If I didn't know,
Yeah.
I don't even look at the message. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, how do you combat that? Or am I now one of the jaded few who is like, ugh, once again, Matt is losing it on social media. He's like not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Am I missing the boat by not engaging those people? And I'm sure a lot of other people are as
Yeah.
well. So I don't know. So what
Yeah, no, I get that. I can understand like you want to protect your time. You're a very busy man. You know what I mean? You got a lot of things going on, businesses, a podcast, etc. So I get that. I think in the approach, again, it's more of that, trying to connect on something, having a warm approach, but then eventually getting to a point of, hey, this is something that I had in mind, which kind of led me to reach out. Is this something that you would be interested in this, discussing about? So you're not like beating around the bush, to the point where the person's like, hey, what do you got, right?
right.
It's more of like making that warm connection and then kind of, stating the thought or the intent of like why I think making this connection would be good. Do you agree? And it's okay if you don't, right? Like,
Right. Well, I'm assuming that when you do your, let's just call it outreach, your
yeah,
LinkedIn, you outreach to somebody, um, or I suppose reach out. That sounds more like a real way the English way of saying it. So when you reach out to somebody, I'm assuming that this is someone where it kind of makes sense. If I see that you're an architect and
yeah,
I'm in the space where I hire architects, so this
yep,
isn't so foreign. Like, if you were,
right,
say, I don't know, an astronaut and you were like, "Hey, hit me up on LinkedIn," and it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, first of all, I'd be curious because I'm like, "Oh, an astronaut, that's freaking cool." All right, definitely want to talk to the astronaut. But if you were like, I don't know, a Sprint account manager, and you're
right,
reaching
yeah,
out, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
then I get it. Um, so is it more that I think they kind of get it from the
yeah.
get, and
So.
you're targeting a
Mhm.
decent kind of prospect. So it
Exactly. So again, going back to that, beginning, it has to be intentional. I'm not saying like randomly just connect with people. You could do that, but what I'm saying is, that ultimately there has to be an opportunity for some value exchange, right? So at the end of the day, it has to be a purposeful connection, right? So either your intent of connecting with that person is they can help you find or get to the person of influence because they're the divine connector, or they're the actual person, they're the person of influence. So it's method behind the madness per se.
Well, yeah. Okay, let's turn this into a little a LinkedIn lesson, if you will,
Yeah.
like a workshop for the aspiring entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So let's just hit some quick numbers. In your you kind of general experience, right, with
Mhm.
with LinkedIn and kind of targeting, I'm just going to call them prospects, for
Yeah.
your LinkedIn outreach. What kind of of numbers are we talking? Is it like 1 in 100 might reply, 1 in 10, 1 in 5? Like how many? What do
Uh,
you get in terms of replies,
yeah. Yeah.
just in general?
I would say like the 1 and 2 and 10 is probably
Okay,
like I would say 10 to 20%. You
okay,
know,
that's great.
you reach out to 10. Well, yeah, I guess it depends on your approach, but for me, it's like if I reach out to 10, five may not even reply or what. They may not be active on LinkedIn. They may just
Right,
be too busy. You never know, right?
love it.
And yeah, and then one or two will definitely reply like right away, and then I may have another one or two that it may be a delayed response. So
Mhm. And
yeah.
so of those, let's say 10 or
Mhm.
so, is it that maybe one becomes a client, maybe?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
is it more like
So
1 in 20, are becoming clients? Like what's been your experience with that?
yeah, so it's kind of funny how it works because I truly believe in the 80/20 rule. And it's I don't know, like I
Right there with you.
you spend your energy where it's worth it, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like for example, if I reach out to 10 people, like I said, I'll get, five that won't respond ever. And then I'll get, one or two that may be a delayed response, and I get another one or two that may be right away. And so out of that one or two that responds right away, I make it one that understands like, the connection we're trying to make, and they're open to have a Zoom call, or, or we may be local together, and it's like, hey, let's grab some lunch,
Okay.
et cetera. So, you get
Wow.
you get those clients like that. And like the other one, the other one, you may have to nurture them a little bit,
Sure.
so, you're maybe exchanging email or phone number or something like that. You're sending them some email information about you, and or you're scheduling to just have a phone call later. So it's more of like a nurturing process. But like that one though, that spent time to build that relationship, it really makes it worth the time, because you only need, and I say this, you can take this with a grain of salt, but you really only need one client to change your business.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I truly believe, and this is something that I think is so inspirational and true, that I
Hmm.
really believe that you are only ever one connection,
One. Yep.
one thought, one
Mhm.
book, one idea away from success. Now,
Yep.
when you come across those, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
will be that one that
Yeah.
changes everything. It was that one, kind of light bulb moment. It was that one
Yeah.
connection. You met that one person that opened up the right door, and boom, it changes
Yeah.
your business and changes your life. So I
Absolutely. Yeah.
truly believe that. And I think that it's about being, as you said earlier, you got to be open to those connections. Because if you're
Yeah.
not, and you're just like working on the business, the products, the
Mhm.
services, and you just do that, it
Yeah.
could be the world's greatest
You
mousetrap
know,
that you built, but you can't.
yeah. You know what's funny about what you say, is that if you only focus, like you said, if you only focus on the product or the service, you can have the best product or service in your niche, but there's probably other companies that have a lesser product or service, but they're just better at marketing, and they're better with connecting with people, and they just make more revenue. It's, I don't know.
Can't even tell you. I mean, that is so true. We have, and I'm not going to name names because we're friends, but I'm telling you, man, it's not even close. It's not
Yeah.
even close. Like the number, like we get clients from their business all the time, and
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh, I can't believe we went with them. It was just horrible service."
Oh
And
yeah.
everything. But they are so big and they're doing so well, and they're
Yeah.
just kind of because they're good at they've gotten really good
Yeah. Yeah. They
professional
attract a lot of
marketing
people. Yeah.
image, and now they're too big for their own success. They
Yeah.
used to be great when they were small, and then
Yeah.
they've grown and gobbled up, and now it looks so shiny and so good. They've
Yeah.
got all this professional money in, and they keep gobbling up coming, and they're huge.
Yeah.
And it's just the service has gone through the floor, and I don't
Mm.
think it's really fitting for most of their clients.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things where, to your point,
Hmm.
100%. Like you could be killing it so much better. It's not even funny. Like we have a amazing service. We got our first client from like 14 years ago, and then like everyone since, and everybody's so happy.
Yeah.
Yet, if we did what they do on their
Yeah.
marketing, and we were just, oh, forget about it. We'd be like the Amazon of
Yeah.
IT
Yeah.
and cybersecurity. It would
Yeah.
be, but I don't know that we could actually keep it up if we did that same deal. So
Yeah.
that's always been my
Yeah.
concern, is maintaining that level of quality and customer service. And
Yeah.
I think there's a balance, and I'm
It
not
is.
to
Yeah.
give up that the quality
Mhm.
of service for the
Yeah.
the added
It's
people.
it's it's that challenge of quantity versus quality. Every business deals with that, and you have to find your threshold, or your balance point, like you said it. And it really just depends on like the business goals that you are trying to achieve. There's some very niche boutique businesses that do very well on very few clients, because they're able to charge premium, for the service or for the product, because their customer experience is just so good. Whereas, some businesses, their business model is different. They may not be able to obtain such a high level of customer experience, and so to make the same amount of money, they just have to do bigger volume.
Yeah.
So it's a numbers game.
Well, and you know what? At the same time, though,
Yeah.
just to play devil's advocate on myself, it is
Hmm.
not like everybody wants, to shop at Goldman Sachs. Some
Yeah.
people, are very happy at Walmart, and
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. That is the right store for them. So
Yeah.
it's you cannot be everything to everyone.
Yeah. It's actually impossible, even if you try it,
Yep.
because what happens is, um, what you do to serve one client, like for example, if you try to serve all clients, right? So if you try to serve a Walmart client with a Macy's business model, it'll irritate them. And if you try to, service a Macy's client with the Walmart business model, it'll irritate them. So there's no way to serve everybody at the same time with the same message and the same business model.
Yeah, and you know what? It goes back to your book about getting clear on what your business is as a whole. And I think it's a mistake that a lot of business owners, or let's just say entrepreneurs, make getting started, because you're like, look, I don't want
Yeah.
to pigeonhole myself into one little.
Yeah.
I will take
Everybody goes through that.
anyone because I need to keep the
Yeah.
lights on.
That's it. Yep.
Yep.
But because the reason that happens is, and I went through it too, and it's just like, this journey that you have to go through of disassociating with the mindset of scarcity, and that's what it is. Like you're afraid that you won't have a client, so you take any and everybody.
Well, and it's that same mindset that keeps you from working with your competition to get
Exactly.
more. I mean, well, and, in all fairness, it is
Hmm.
incredibly difficult to fathom just how big the marketplace is. Like,
Yeah.
even thinking about the number 1 million, to
Hmm.
really imagine what a million people look like. Forget
Hmm.
about it. You can't picture it accurately in your head. Forget about it. You can't do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
let alone, the sheer the volume of business and the number of clients that are around you, the amount
Hmm.
of currency that is flowing in the economy right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's would blow you. You can't even think about
Yeah.
it.
Every second.
It's crazy. It is such a vast amount. And then to think like
Yeah.
I need to be so protective of my little,
Yeah.
anything. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like there's such an abundance, and it's
Yeah.
only limited by that thought.
That's that's incredible you said that, because that actually helped me in my business. Is in the marketplace, actually, when you forget about self just for a little bit, you just get in the marketplace and just start trying to help people. It comes back so quick, because people reward goodwill. I mean, it's just it's innate. It's a nature thing. It is what it is. And so as you're trying to build your business, if you have our opportunity to help your competitor or help other people, serve new clients, or serve them in a better way, right, at no additional cost to them. You're planting good seed, man. It just comes back to a
Well,
hundredfold.
let's talk about that for a second,
Yeah.
because I think it is something that is often misunderstood. Because
Hmm.
if you take that just on the surface of just how, go out there and help where you can. I mean, on the one hand, you could get very sidetracked and spend your entire life trying to feed the needy, just all day, every day, volunteering at a soup kitchen and going in, and then your business is done because you
Yeah.
spent your whole day, all day, every day, trying to help. And while that is nice and it does build goodwill,
Yeah.
you are building goodwill to the wrong people. So,
Yes.
and that is, I get it. That's, an extreme example, but I
Hmm.
think it's that kind of example that immediately hits the entrepreneur who's like, look, I gotta make money. I've got to build my business, help people. Yeah. I mean, I help them with my product or service, but how do I, how, so what's your advice on kind of implementing that, help where you
Yeah.
can, goodwill, and build goodwill?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that can easily be done is like integrating yourself into your community. And when I say that, like, yes, you may have a product or a service, but you also have experience and education that like people would love to. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. You integrate yourself into your community, and I don't mean like geographically all the time. It could be over the internet, or et cetera, right? Like there's somebody, or there's a community waiting for you, right, to pour into them. And so that helps build your credibility, your expertise. You'll find people will refer you to them, and they've just been watching all your YouTube videos. So it's like, you just never know who you will affect just by, like you said, creating goodwill just by sharing your experience and a lot of things like that.
Well, that's funny you should say the whole YouTube video thing, because we use
Mhm.
a really great SEO guy. Um,
Okay.
and I found his name's Julian Goldie, and he
Hmm.
runs the Goldie Agency. And I found him because I would just somehow I came across his YouTube content, and it just, maybe I was, looking up some SEO stuff. I'm like, oh, we're not
Okay.
doing that great on SEO. So I started looking into it, and I ran across his videos, and he's just putting out tons of great content. And I'm like, well, this
Hmm.
is fantastic. Now, I obviously do not have the time to go through all of this content and implement it myself. But if you
Yeah,
did have the time, he's teaching you how to do his job and be great at it. The
right.
brilliance there is it creates all this content. You see that, and I'm like, okay, great. Clearly, you know what you're doing. I'd love to
Yeah,
do that.
exactly.
Can you do
Yeah.
that for me? That's exactly what we do. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And so that's a really good example of it where it's like, it's just great. And he just does these, videos. It's just him talking. He shows you the examples. It works.
Yeah.
And it's like, great. So, and then, when you go into that whole community thing, like you were
Mhm.
saying, I think this is such a really great point because
Mhm.
often you think, well, I'll get it. What do I go to my local chamber or should I volunteer at with some local charity?
Mhm.
But so many people have done really well, but you always hear about it. Like if you want to build up your social media, like
Yeah,
contribute, get active in it
exactly.
and
Yeah.
start talking to other people, reply to theirs and be engaged. And
Yeah,
same
exactly.
with
Yeah.
online forums and these communities,
Those,
get
yep.
engaged. And then
The
they're like,
online
oh, hey,
community.
well,
Yeah.
I like you,
Yep.
and you know, because it's funny. Who was it? It's Grant Cardone has that expression
Yeah.
that if they don't know you, they can't flow you type deal.
Yeah.
So if people they cannot give you money if they don't
Yeah.
know you, and
Don't.
if they know you and they like you, they want to do business with you if you have a product or service that makes sense that they could
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
So getting out
Those
there.
are excellent points actually. And like for example, I'll just go back. You mentioned like the Chamber of Commerce. You know, one and like talking about LinkedIn and all of that. Like you'll be surprised that actually when you get out into your prospective community, whether it be online or in person, you'll meet the people and make the connections more organically. And those literally are like the lifelong customers or clients or partners that you end up having because you met in a very non-transactional environment. And so it's like just super genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess really that just kind of going back over this the and boiling this down to a few nuggets. It really
Yeah.
is, as you said, you got to put yourself out there, right? Be open to
Yeah.
those connections and ideas, and have that abundance mindset. And when you do, whether you're doing it online through LinkedIn or some
Mhm.
other social media, or you're going to the chamber, you're going to local events or some
Mhm.
conference or whatever, you never know who you're going to meet. And then that person can open those doors. So,
Absolutely.
which leads me back, going way back to that kind of the connector that you were talking about. Do
Mhm.
you have a way of kind of saying, "Oh, I think they're the connectors"? So, I mean, a power connector like these super connectors, and I think
Yeah.
you called them.
Yeah.
What did you call them? You called them like divine connectors, right?
Divine
The,
connectors. Yeah.
these people because when you talk to them, they're always focused on, well, how can I help? Who can I?
How
Oh,
can
and
it?
they
Yeah.
introduce you. It's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
who
They're
can I
always going to
introduce you to
give you
help get
skills.
you?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And those people, and I've started to do that myself, and it's just fantastic. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I put two great people together. They're doing
Yep.
stuff.
But
It's
but you but
awesome.
you know the beautiful thing about that brings them satisfaction, so they love to do it. And so you just have to be in
100%.
the right place at the right time and just be open to having conversation. And they're listening, and as they're listening, they're like, well, I should introduce you to this person or this person. You'll be, you know what I mean? And it's just, man, we've had several clients come that way.
Well, it's just fantastic. It feels
Yeah.
so great because you're like,
Hmm.
oh, hey, let me, and then you've helped two people out and they're so
Exactly.
happy, and then it works. And so you're
Yeah.
just adding value and making things good. It's just fantastic. So my question to you is, do you
Yeah.
have a way of, let's say, going back to that LinkedIn, do you
Hmm.
have a way of kind of pinpointing somebody and be like, oh, I think they're a super connector because they seem to have like, I don't know, they've got like
Yeah.
10,000, connections on LinkedIn. So they are, I don't know. Do you have something, or you're just like, nah, you know them when you meet them?
Yeah, it's a little bit of you kind of know him when you meet him, but if I was to reference LinkedIn, I think you would have to really look at like who are they connected to, and maybe some of the mutual connections that you guys already might have. You'll be surprised that like those divine connectors can actually help you blossom a relationship that you thought you already had and never optimized it. So I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It's been kind of funny.
That's awesome. So now let me ask you then, is your advice then um to then try to be a connector, right?
It's
Wherever you can in that you're giving back and
Yeah. I was gonna say, actually that, yeah, it's a full circle, it's whatever energy you put out, you get it back, etc. So, as you meet those divine connectors that can connect you with people, your influence will grow also, so that you can be that person, for the next up and coming business owner, etc. So you just gotta be open to it. And I was talking to another friend of mine. There's a book called The Go Giver, by a guy named Bob Burke. Wonderful book, man. Great guy too. And there's his law of reciprocity and the law giving and receiving. So it's just a full circle. So you have to be open, to being helped and to help also.
I love it. I mean, honestly, I can't imagine an entrepreneur not succeeding if they listen to this and they're like, oh, this has been like, this is really great stuff. If you just apply any one of the things we've talked about today, it's
Mhm.
it would change a business. That for somebody who's
Yeah,
just been working on their business and their products and services and making them great, any one of these, and now you've leveled up, right?
yeah,
Come back,
absolutely.
listen to it again, level up again. Read the Go Giver, start connecting people. There's no stopping at that point. Then they're on their way.
Yeah, at some point you'll hit critical mass, man. Where like like you'll be surprised how many connections and phone calls and emails you'll start getting every day. You'll be the center of this like ecosystem, which is pretty cool.
I love it. So, Jonathan, before we finish, can you tell people where they can get a copy of your? Oh, there we go. It's no longer blurry. A
Ah,
copy of your book, and where they can find out more about you.
yeah, absolutely. So actually, you can Google my book and just pull up on Amazon. Also, I have my personal branding website. You can find it there as well as johnclarkofficial.com. And if you want to just see more of me as far as like social media is concerned, my Instagram is john.clark92. So
Awesome. John, thanks so much for coming on. This was an absolute pleasure. I honestly think we could do 6 more of these. This would be great. And we may just make it a series because I'm enjoying this. So,
yeah,
um,
why not, man?
that's right. Why not? Even if it's just you and me and nobody ever listens to it, we're having a blast. This was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, John, thanks again for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Matthew.
You got
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.